hopefully you enjoy the world I found. This will be the audio, the ambiance will be. Let me know if the audio needs to be balanced. Hi there, Nick, Cat, Butterfly, and Cam. And human. Oh. Okay, so before I start, how's everybody doing today? Well, Booth gets no visits on job fair. Couldn't tell you. God damn it. Okay. Okay, but even still. Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good to hear. Congrats in first though, Butterfly, and second, Cat. Yeah. I actually want to double check the audio.
Hello there.
Hello there. Yeah, I got no problem with people redeeming that. I do ask that, like, the long redeem, like not be redeemed, because that would be quite disruptive, at least for this kind of stream. You could pause them. Yeah, I know, but I'd like to try to extend some trust first. Let's still. Oh. How well am I coming through over the music in the background? Do I need to raise my own volume? Do I need to lower the game volume? Yeah, no. That's a fair point. Seems a little loud. Okay. Let me... Quick.
She lights in the silence. She grabbed my
Testing.
ask me what I think about the house light deep in the woods.
Okay, let's see how I feel I'm coming. Oh.
My life will never go.
Okay, excuse me. Volume of the loud.
Although this life falling down in the deep hole, I know I stay.
And
Remember
God damn it.
this feeling in my heart and the
Yeah, okay, so let's up my microphone a little bit.
frozen that's
Actually, let's control the audio inside the game. Yeah? That a little better for the balance.
She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about. But you know what? You know.
I'll be able to bring my microphone down again. Okay, maybe not. Oh, there. There we go. What? Yeah. I think I'll find what like a day for Alien. Expecting that to be a 3-day goddamn campaign. Wait, has it only been 3 days? It hasn't even been 3 days. Pains my ass. I'll see about doing that next week. Okay. I know, in particular, Hope has been asking about this. Okay.
She lights in the silence. She grabbed my
Yeah. For those who can't see, you know what? Let me tweak. And try doing something real quick. Actually, that. That is what. So I will be trying my damnedest to read in between the ads. I'll take pauses between them. I'm staring at that ad timer right now. Okay. God, it's been way too long since I read this series. Like, read any of it. Yeah, starting up Spice and Wolf, Volume 1. The light novel series by... Oh, I'm gonna fuck up the author name. Isuna Hasakura. I was like, I've had this book for almost 10 years. Like, even when I stopped reading, I continued buying them because I knew that I was going to come back to them. So this gives me a good excuse to, well, one, read the books I got, and two, have some content for everybody else. Well, here we go. I know this is a series that I've loved for quite some time, and I've had these books for, I think Spice and Wolf Volume 1 I first got probably close to 10 years ago. And even though I kind of stopped reading them, I continued buying them knowing that I would come back to them. And being able to come back to them in this manner is unexpected, but kind of happy about that. So hopefully you guys enjoy the background noise, and hopefully I can do these readings justice. So starting with Spice and Wolf, Volume 1, the light novel by Isuna Hasakura.
She lights in the silence.
Okay.
She grabbed my hand.
Yes, Cross, it already is.
While I think about
Okay, so the prologue.
lie deep in our woods.
You're a pain in my ass. Y'all are. I just see what you guys did. Pain in my ass. I'm gonna fucking increase that total next time. But starting with the prologue. In this village, when the ripened ears of wheat sway in the breeze, it is said that a wolf runs through them. This is because one can make out the form of a running wolf in the shifting stalks of the wheat field. When the wind is too strong and the stalks are blown over, it is said that a wolf has trampled them. When the harvest is poor, it is said the wolf has eaten it. It is a nice turn of phrase, but it has a troublesome aspect of flawed. Ugh. It was a nice turn of phrase, but it had a troublesome aspect that flawed it, she felt. Still, lately, it was a popular sort of expression. There were few remaining who wielded it with sort of familiarity or awe it held in the past. Although the autumn sky that was visible between the swaying stalks of wheat had not changed in hundreds of years, conditions below that sky had indeed changed. The villagers who tended the wheat as the years passed lived for 70 years at the most. Perhaps it would be worse for them to go centuries without changing. Maybe that is why there's no need for them to honor the ancient agreement, she thought. In any case, she knew that she no longer had a place here. The mountains that rose in the east caused the clouds over the village to drift mostly north. She thought of her homeland beyond those drifting clouds and sighed, returning her gaze from the sky to the fields. Her eyes fell upon her magnificent tail, which twitched just past her nose. With nothing better to do, she set to grooming it. The autumn sky was high and clear. Harvest time had come again. Many wolves were running through the wheat fields. Okay, so that is the prologue. Did that come through okay for you all? I want to double check before I start committing to chapter 1. God damn it. Just because of how long that one is, I'm going to be disabling that one for the stream. I will re-enable them later. But like some of the sounds that I have that aren't but yeah. There we go. Disable the field. Wait until you took a break. Thank you, Meg. But yeah, no, I kept the normal bonk because that one's kind of short, but like the 7 pages one, that one's a little bit long for this. Yeah. Yep. Chapter 1. So, that's the last then. Looks like 70 pelts on the nose. Always a pleasure. Hey, anytime. You're the only one who will come this far in the mountains, Lawrence. I should be thanking you. But for my trouble, I'd get truly fine pelts. I'll come again. The usual pleasantries concluded, Lawrence managed to leave the village just around 5 o'clock. The sun was just beginning to climb when he had left, and it was midday by the time he descended from the mountains and entered the plains. The weather was good, and there was no wind. It was a perfect day for dozing in the wagon as he crossed the plains. It seemed absurd that he only recently had felt the chill of the approaching winter. This was Lawrence's 7th year as a traveling merchant, and his 25th since birth. He gave a huge yawn in the driver's box. There were few grasses or trees of any notable height, and so he had an expansive view. At the very edge of his field of vision, he could see a monastery that had been built some years earlier. He didn't know what young noble had cloistered in this remote location. The masonry of the building was magnificent, and unbelievably, it even had an iron gate. Lawrence seemed to remember that roughly 20 monks lived there, attended to by a similar number of manservants. When the monastery had first been built, Lawrence had anticipated fresh clientele. The monks were somehow able to secure supplies without employing independent merchants. So his dreams were fleeting. Admittedly, the monks lived simply, tilling their fields, so trade with them would not be especially profitable. There was another problem that they would probably solicit donations and leave their bills unpaid. As far as simple trade went, they were the worst partners out there. There were worse partners than out-and-out thieves. Still, there were times when trade with them was convenient. Thus, Lawrence looked in the direction of the monastery with some small regret. Then his eyes narrowed. From the direction of the monastery, someone was waving at him. What's this? The figure did not look like a manservant. They wore dark brown work clothes. The waving figure was covered in gray clothing. His deliberate approach likely meant some hassle, but ignoring him could make matters worse. Lawrence reluctantly turned his horse toward the figure. Perhaps having realized that Lawrence was now headed his way, the figure stopped waving, but made no move to approach. He appeared to be waiting for the cart's arrival. It could hardly be his first time. It would hardly be the first time that a church-associated person demonstrated arrogance. Lawrence was in no mood to take every such insult personally. As he approached the monastery and the figure became clearer, Lawrence muttered in spite of himself. A knight? He at first dismissed the idea as ridiculous, but as he drew nearer, he saw there was unmistakably a knight. Gray clothing was in fact silver armor. You, there! What's your business here? The distance between them was still too far for conversation, which is why the knight yelled. He apparently felt no need to introduce himself, as if his position was obvious. I am Lawrence, a traveling merchant. Do you require my service? The monastery was now directly in front of him. He was close enough to count the number of servants working in the fields to the south. He also noted that the knight in front of him was not alone. There was another one past the monastery, perhaps standing guard. A merchant? There's no town in the direction you came from. Said the knight haughtily, sticking out his chest as if to display the golden cross that was engraved there. but the mantle draped over his shoulders was gray, indicating a knight of low rank. His blonde hair looked freshly cut, and his body did not look as if it had been through many battles. Though his pride most likely came from being a new knight. It was important to deal with such men carefully. They tended to be excitable. So instead of replying, Lawrence took a leather pouch out from his breast pocket, slowly undid the twine that held it closed. Inside were candies made of crystallized honey. He plucked out one, popped it in his mouth, then offered the open bag to the knight. Care for one? Said the knight, hesitating momentarily before his desire for the sweet candy won out. Still, perhaps because of his position as a knight, a considerable amount of time passed between his initial nod and when he actually reached out and took the honey drop. A half day's travel east of here, there's a small village in the mountains. I was trading salt there. Ah, I see you have a load in your cart. Salt as well? No, but furs. Look. Said Lawrence, turning around and removing the tarp that covered his load, revealing a bundle of magnificent marten pelts. A year's salary of the knight was before him. A year's salary of the knight before him was paltry compared to its worth. And this? Ah, this is wheat I received from the village. A sheaf of wheat was in the corner of the mountain of furs that had been harvested from the village where Lawrence had traded his salt. It was hardy in cold weather and resisted insects. He planned to sell it in the northwest, where crops had sustained heavy frost damage. Very well, you may pass. It was a strange way of speaking for someone who'd summoned him over so high-handedly earlier. But if Lawrence were to meekly say, "Yes, sir," now, a fine merchant he'd be. So, what occasions your post here, Sir Knight? The knight's brow knitted in consternation. Oh god, I hate this word. The knight's brow knitted in consternation at the question and furrowed still deeper as he glanced at the bag of honey drops. He was well and truly caught now. Lawrence undid the bag string closure and plucked out another sweet, giving it to the knight. Delicious. I should thank you. The knight was being reasonable. Lawrence inclined his head, gratefully, using his best trader's smile. The monks have caught wind of a big pagan festival that's approaching, thus the increased guard. Do you know anything of this festival? His face betrayed any hint of his disappointment at the explanation. Calling a third-rate performance would have been generous. But Lawrence only affected a pained expression and answered, "Sadly, I know nothing." This was, of course, a huge lie. But the knight was just as mistaken, so there was nothing for it. Perhaps it truly is being held in secret then. Pagans are a cowardly lot, after all. The knight was so mistaken, it was amusing. But Lawrence merely agreed and took his leave. The knight nodded and thanked him again for the honey drops. Undoubtedly, they had been delicious. Most of the knight's money went to equipment and lodging. Even an apprentice cobbler lived a better life. It had surely been a long time since the knight had eaten anything sweet. Not that Lawrence had any intention of giving him another piece. Still, a pagan festival, they say. Lawrence repeated the knight's words to himself, once the monastery was well behind him. Lawrence had an inkling of what the knight was talking about. Actually, anyone from this area would know about it. But it was no pagan festival. For one thing, true pagans were further north or farther east. The festival that happened here was hardly something one needed knights to guard against. It was a simple harvest festival, of the sort that could be found nearly anywhere. True, this area's festival was somewhat grander than the typical celebration, which is probably why the monastery was keeping an eye on it and reporting to the city. The church had long been unable to keep control over this area, which undoubtedly made it all the more nervous about goings on. Indeed, the church had been eager to hold inquisitions and convert heathens, and clashes between natural philosophers and theologians in the city were far from rare. The time when the church could command the populace's unconditional submission was vanishing. The dignity of the Inquisition was beginning to crumble. Even the inhabitants of the city said nothing. All were gradually beginning to realize it. In fact, the Pope had recently had to petition the monarchs of several nations for funds when tithes had come in below expectations. Such a tale would have been preposterous even 10 years before. Thus, the church was desperate to regain its authority. Business everywhere will suffer, said Lawrence, with a rueful smile, popping another honey drop into his mouth. I'm gonna kind of pause here until the ad. It looks like there's gonna be an ad coming up here shortly, so I'll wait until that passes. Well, still. God damn it. Thank you for the bits. God damn it, Vic.
She lights in the silence. She
But how's everybody doing today?
grabs me while I
And Cross, the atmosphere is so peaceful today. God damn it. But yeah, we're currently on to we're a little halfway past page 12. Which is not too bad so far. So, 10 or so pages every half hour-ish. That'd be probably 4 streams worth per book. That'd be effectively 1 book a month. If I'm guessing my pace correctly. I think I have 20 or 30 books, or 20 or so books of Spice and Wolf. And if demand for this is high enough, then I could also look at getting other light novels to continue this same kind of thing with other stories.
we walked in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me while I think about
Still kind of fun. Still kind of laughing. Is Hope here currently? No, Hope is asking. Hope is not here. Well, that's quite a few names in the, as far as users in chat that I am not aware of. The Russian mommy? Who the fuck? You're new. But even still, with everybody who is here, it really does mean a lot. I'll go ahead and do that real quick because I don't do shit to promote my own Discord. Why not? Okay. Okay. Starting back up here just momentarily because ad is almost over. So. There we go. Okay. The western skies were a more beautiful golden hue than the wheat in the fields by the
They
time.
ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
God damn it. God damn it, cat. Because they're long. I will be turning them back on before the end of stream. Today is reading. They will be turned back on, cat. I had a bottle of vodka in the fridge behind me. Make me drunk on Friday to tell me how you really. I will see. Damn it. The western skies were a more beautiful golden hue than the wheat in the fields by the time Lawrence arrived on the plains. Distant birds became tiny shadows as they hurried home, and here and there the frogs sang themselves to sleep. It appeared that the wheat fields had been mostly harvested, so the festival would undoubtedly begin soon. Perhaps even as soon as the day after tomorrow. Before Lawrence lay the expanses of the village of Paslow's fertile wheat fields. The more abundant the harvest, the more prosperous the villagers. Furthermore, the nobles who'd managed the land, one Count Arundot, was a famous area eccentric who enjoyed working the fields himself. Naturally, the festival also enjoyed his support, and every year it was a riot of wine and song. Lawrence had not once participated in it, though. Unfortunately, outsiders were not permitted. "Oh there, good work!" Lawrence called out to a farmer driving a cart heaped high with wheat in the corner of one of the fields. It was well-ripened wheat. Those who had invested in wheat futures could breathe a sigh of relief. "What's that? Might you tell me where to find Yare?" "Oh, Yare would be over yonder. See where that crowd is gathering? That field? It's all youngsters at his place this year. Whoever's slowest will wind up being the holo," said the farmer good-naturedly, his tan face smiling. Kind of guileless smile a merchant could never manage. Lawrence thanked the farmer with his best trader's smile, and turned his horse toward Yare's place. Just as the farmer had said, there was a crowd gathering within its confines, and they were shouting something. They seemed to be making sport of the few who were still working the field. But it wasn't to ridicule at their lateness. The jeering was part of the festival. As Lawrence lazily approached the crowd, he was able to make out their shouting. "There's a wolf! A wolf! A wolf lies there! Who will be the last to catch the wolf? Who? Who? Who?" The villagers shouted, their faces so cheerful one wondered if they were drunk. None of them noticed Lawrence pulling his cart up behind the crowd. What they so enthusiastically called a wolf was in fact not a wolf at all. Had it been real, no one would have been laughing. The wolf was the harvest god, according to village legend. It resided within the last stalk of wheat to be reaped. Whoever cut the stalk down would be possessed by the wolf, it was said. It's the last bundle. Lawrence is a traveling merchant, 25 years old. At 12... I skipped a page. I love it. Mind you, don't cut too far. Holo flees from the greedy hand. Who will catch the wolf? It's Yare! 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 Lawrence got off his wagon and peered at the crowd just as Yare caught the last bundle of wheat. His face was black with sweat and soil as he grinned and hefted the wheat high, threw his head back, and howled. God damn it. It's Holo! 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 He howls again. Holo the wolf is here! Holo the wolf is here! Catch it now! Catch it quick! Don't let it escape! The shouting men suddenly gave chase after Yare. The god of bountiful harvest, once cornered, would possess a human and try to escape. Capture it and it would remain for another year. None knew if this god truly existed. This was an old tradition of the area. Lawrence had traveled far and wide, but he put no stock in the teaching of the church. But his faith in superstition was greater even than that. But his faith in superstition was greater even than that of the farmers here. Many times had he crossed mountains only to arrive in towns to find the price of his goods dropping precipitously. It was enough to make anyone superstitious. Thus, he didn't bat an eye at traditions that true believers or church officials would have been found outrageous. But it was inconvenient that Yade was this year's holo. Now Yade would be locked in a granary stocked with treats until the festival was over, close to a week. And would be impossible to talk to. Nothing for it, I suppose, said Lawrence, sighing as he returned to his wagon and made for the village as residence. He had wanted to enjoy some drinks with Yade and report on the events at the monastery. But if he didn't sell the furs that were piled high in his wagon bed, he wouldn't be able to pay for the goods purchased elsewhere when the bills came due. He also wanted to sell the wheat he'd bought from the other village and couldn't wait until around for the festival to end. Lawrence talked briefly of the midday happenings at the monastery to the village head, who was busy with festival preparation. He politely declined the offer to stay the night and put the village behind him. Years before the Count began to manage the region, he had suffered under heavy taxes that drove up the prices of his exports. Lawrence had bought some of the unfavorably priced wheat and sold it for a meager profit. He hadn't done it to win favor for the village, but rather because he simply didn't have the resources to compete with other merchants for the cheaper, finer grain. Nevertheless, the village was still grateful for the business then, and Yade was the middleman for the deal. It was unfortunate they couldn't enjoy a drink with Yade, but once Holo appeared, Lawrence would soon be chased out. Or chased out of the village, the festival came to its climax. If he'd stayed the night, he wouldn't have been able to stay long. As he sat in his wagon, Lawrence felt a sense of loneliness at being excluded thus. Nibbling on some vegetables he had been given as a souvenir, he took the road west, passing cheerful farmers returning from their day's work. Having returned to his lonely travel, Lawrence envied the farmers with their friends. Lawrence was a traveling merchant and 25 years old. At 12, he had apprenticed under a relative, and at 18, he set out on his own. There were many places he had yet to visit, and he felt that the true test of his mettle as a trader was yet to come. Like any number of traveling merchants, his dream was to save enough money to open up a shop in a town. The dream still seemed distant. If he could seize upon a good opportunity, why not be so? But unfortunately, the larger traders seize such opportunities with their money. Nevertheless, he hauled the goods across the countryside in order to pay his debts in a timely fashion. Even if he saw a good opportunity, he lacked the wherewithal to seize it. To a traveling merchant, such a thing was unreachable as the moon in the sky. Lawrence looked up at the moon and sighed. He realized such sighs were more frequent lately, whether a reaction to years of frantic trading simply to make ends meet, or because recently he had gotten slightly ahead and was thinking more about the future. Additionally, when he should have been thinking about a little else besides creditors, payment deadlines, and getting to the next town as quickly as possible, thoughts chased one another through his head. Specifically, he thought of the people he'd met on his travels. He thought of the merchants he'd come to know when visiting a town repeatedly on business, and villagers he had become acquainted with at his destinations. The maidservant he had fallen for during a long stay at an inn, waiting for a blizzard to pass. On and on. In short, he longed for company more and more frequently. Such longing was an occupational hazard for merchants who spent the better part of a year in a wagon. But Lawrence only recently began to feel it. Until now, he had always boasted that it would never happen to him. Still, having spent many days alone with a horse, he started to feel it would be nice if the horse could speak. stories of cart horses becoming human were not uncommon among traveling merchants. And Lawrence had since the beginning laughed off such yarns as ridiculous. But lately, he wondered if they could be true. When a young merchant went to buy a horse from a horse trader, some even recommended a mare with a completely straight face, just in case she turns human on you. This had happened to Lawrence, who'd ignored advice and bought a sturdy stallion. That same horse was working steadily in front of him even now. As time passed, Lawrence grew lonely. He wondered if he might have been better off with a mare after all. On the other hand, that horse hauled heavy loads day in, day out. Even if it were to become human, it seemed impossible that it would fall in love with its master or use its mysterious powers bringing them good fortune. It would probably just want to be paid and given rest, Lawrence mused. As soon as this occurred to him, he felt that it was best if a horse stayed a horse. Even if it did make him selfish, Lawrence smiled bitterly and sighed as if tired of himself. Presently, he came to a river and decided to make camp for the night. The full moon was bright, but that did not guarantee that he wouldn't fall in the river. As if that happened, calling it a disaster would be an understatement. He'd have to hang himself. That kind of trouble he didn't need. Lawrence pulled back on the reins. The horse stopped at a signal, heaving 2 or 3 sighs as it realized its long-anticipated rest was here. Giving the rest of his vegetables to the horse, Lawrence took a bucket out of the wagon, drew some water from the river, settling it before the animal. As it happily slurped its bucket, Lawrence drank some of the water he'd gotten from the village. Wine would have been nicer, but drinking without a partner only made the loneliness worse. There was no guarantee he wouldn't get staggeringly drunk. So Lawrence decided to go to bed. He half-heartedly nibbled on the vegetables most of the way. He'd only a bit of beef before hopping back in the wagon bed. Normally he slept in the hempen tarp that covered the bed, but tonight he had a wagon load of marten pelts. It'd be a waste. It'd be a waste not to sleep in them. They might make him smell a bit beastly in the morning, but that was better than freezing. But jumping right in the pelts would crush the wheat sheaf, so in order to move them aside, he whisked the tarp off of the wagon bed. The only reason he didn't shout was because the sight that greeted him was flatly unbelievable. Apparently he had a guest. Hey! Lawrence wasn't sure his voice actually made a sound. He was shocked and wondering if the loneliness had finally broken him and he was hallucinating. But after he shook his head and rubbed his eyes, his guest had not disappeared. The beautiful girl was sleeping so soundly, it seemed a shame to wake her. Hey, you there! Said Lawrence nonetheless, returning to his senses. You might inquire what exactly motivates someone to sleep in a wagon bed. In the worst case, it might be a village runaway. He didn't want that kind of trouble. Came the girl's defenseless response to Lawrence's. Her eyes still closed, her voice so sweet that it'd make a poor traveling merchant accustomed only to brothels in the city lightheaded. She had a terrifying allure, despite her obvious youth, nestled there in the firs, illuminated by the moonlight. Lawrence gulped once before returning to reason. Given that she was so beautiful, if she was a prostitute, there was no telling how much he would be taken for if he was so much as touch her. Considering the economics of the situation, was a tonic far more effective than any prayer. Lawrence regained his composure and raised his voice once again. Hey, you there! What are you playing at? Sleeping in someone's cart. The girl did not awaken. Fed up with this girl who slept so obstinately, Lawrence grabbed the pelt that supported her head and jerked it out from under her. The girl's head flopped into the gap left by the pelt, and finally he heard an irritated squawk. He was about to raise his voice at her again, and then he froze. The girl had dog ears on her head. Now that the girl seemed to be finally awake, Lawrence summoned his courage and spoke again. You there, what are you doing? Climb into my wagon bed. Lawrence had been robbed more than once by thieves and bandits across the countryside. He considered himself bolder and more courageous than the average person. He wasn't one to quail just because the girl in front of him happened to have the ears of an animal. Despite the fact the girl hadn't answered his question, Lawrence did not pose them again. This was because the girl, slowly awakening before him, was entirely naked and unspeakably beautiful. Her hair, illuminated by the moonlight in the wagon, looked as soft as silk, fell over her shoulders like the finest cloak. The strands that fell down her neck to her collarbone drew a line so beautiful they put the finest painting of the Virgin Mary to shame. Her supple arms were so fine they seemed carved from ice. And exposed now in the middle of her body were two small breasts, so beautiful they gave the impression of being carved from some inorganic material. They gave off a strangely vital scent, as if housed within her arresting charm was a warmth. Such a fascinating spectacle could just as soon go awry. The girl slowly began opening her mouth and looked skyward. Closing her eyes, she howled. Lawrence felt a sudden fear. It blew through his body like a wind. The howl was a song of a wolf would use to call his comrades to chase and corner a human. This was no howl like Yare had uttered earlier. It was a true howl. Lawrence dropped a bite of beef from his mouth. His horse reared and startled. Then he realized something. The moonlit girl's form. With the ears on her head, the ears of a beast. Read the title of the stream, Hermit Crab.
She lights in the silence.
No, all good. That's why I have that. That's why I have that title right now. This is new content for me. "'Tis a good moon. Have you no wine?" she said, letting the howl fade away. Drawing her chin up, smiling slightly, Lawrence came back to himself at the sound of her voice. What was before him was neither dog nor wolf. It was a beautiful girl with the ears of such an animal, though. I have none. And what are you? Why do you sleep in my cart? Were you sold? Were you to be sold in town? Did you escape? Lawrence meant to ask as authoritatively as he could. Well, the girl did not so much as move. What? So you have no wine? Food, then? My, such waste. Said the girl unconcernedly as her nose twitching. She spied the bit of beef Lawrence had almost eaten earlier, snapping it up and popping in her mouth. As she chewed it, Lawrence did not fail to notice the two sharp fangs behind the girl's lips. Are you some kind of demon? He asked, his hand falling to the dagger at his waist. As traveling merchants often needed to convert large amounts of currency, they often carried their money in the forms of items. The silver dagger was one such item, and silver was known as a holy metal, strong against evil. However, when Lawrence put his hand at the dagger and posed a question, the girl looked blankly at him, and then laughed heartedly. Me? A demon now? Her mouth thrown open wide, enough to drop a piece of meat. The girl was so adorable as to be disarming. Her two sharp fangs only added to her charm. However, being laughed at made Lawrence angry. How is that amusing? Oh, it's amusing, it is. That is surely the first time I've been called a demon. Still, giggling to herself. The girl picked up the meat again and chewed it. She did have fangs. And in her ears, it was clear enough that she was no mere human. Add in her ears. It was... What are you? Me? Who but you would I be talking to? The horse, say. When Lawrence drew his dagger, the girl's smile disappeared. Her red-tinged amber eyes narrowed. What are you, I say? Drawing a blade on me now. How lacking in manners. What? Ah, I see. My escape was successful. My apologies. I had forgotten, said the girl with a smile. Completely guileless and charming smile. The smile didn't particularly sway him, but nevertheless, Lawrence somehow felt that pointing a blade at the girl was an unseemly thing for a man to do, and so he put it away. I'll pause until the ad passes. Hi Zeta, thank you for the head pat. How's everybody doing? Yeah, Zeta, hopefully your day is going better. Hopefully your migraine passed. But yeah, sorry about that, Hermit Crab. I wasn't trying to ignore anybody. And the background music and background visual right now is a World in VR chat. I was trying to find something for ambiance in the background. Which seemed quite fitting considering this world is from the game Spice of Wolf VR, so considering that's what I'm reading, why not?
She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about. But you know what
I just realized that I never did that. Or that. Wait, did I do that too? Oh, if I... Oh, fuck, I might have just double tweeted that bit. Let's double check. I'm just being a dumbass today. But then again, that's kind of normal, especially for me. I did not do that already. But still. I know it's not really a whole lot of material, but seriously. For those of you here, just lurking, that means a lot. Fucking thank you. I will reactivate those. Catley, I will reactivate those. Hi there, Panda. Definitely a pleasure to have you here. Currently waiting. Oh, ad is passed. Go ahead and continue. But still. The smile didn't particularly sway him, but nevertheless, Lawrence somehow felt that pointing a blade at a girl was an unseemly thing for a man to do. So he put it away. I'm called Holo. It's been some time since I've taken this form, but, well, it's quite nice. Boop. I will definitely need to hydrate, though. Thank you. Hopefully your day is going well, Panda. As the girl looked herself over approvingly, Lawrence was so caught on the first half of what she said that he'd missed the second half. Holo? Holo. A good name, no? Lawrence had traveled far and wide over many lands, but there was only one place where he had heard that name. None other than the harvest god in the village of Paslow. What a coincidence! I also know one that goes by Holo. It's bold of her to use the name of a god, but at least this told him that she was indeed a girl from Paslow. Perhaps she'd been hidden, raised in secret by her family because of her ears and fangs. That would fit with her charm to have escaped. That would fit with her claim to have escaped successfully. Lawrence had heard talk of abnormal children like this being born. They were called demon children, and it was thought that a devil or a spirit had possessed them at birth. If the church discovered them, they, along with their families, would be burned at the stake for demon worshipping. Such children were thus either abandoned in the mountains or raised in secret. But this was the first time Lawrence had ever actually seen such a child. He had always assumed that it would be disgustingly bestial. judging from appearance alone, this one was a plausible goddess. Oh, I have never met another holo. Whence do they hail? As the girl chewed the meat, it was hard to see her trying to deceive anyone. It seemed possible that having raised in environment for so long, she really did believe herself to be a god. It is the name of this area's harvest god. Are you a god? At this, the girl's moonlit face was slightly troubled for a moment before she smiled. I have long been bound to this place and called its god, but I am nothing so great as his deity. I am merely holo. Lawrence guessed that this meant she had been locked away in her home since she was born. He felt a certain sympathy for the young girl. By long, you mean that you were born here? Oh no. That was an unexpected answer. I was born far to the north. The north? Indeed. The summers there are short and the winters long. A world of silver. Holo's eyes narrowed as she seemed to gaze in the distance. It was hard to imagine that she was lying. Her behavior, as she reminisced about the lands of the north, was too natural to be an act. Have you ever been there? Lawrence wondered if she was counterattacking. But if Holo was lying or merely repeating things she'd heard from others, he would have been able to tell immediately. His travels as a merchant had in fact led him to the far north before. I've been as far as... Oh, fuck. I've been as far as, Arahito Stock. The year-round blowing snow is terrifying. Haven't heard of it, replied Holo, inclining her head slightly. He had expected her to pretend to have knowledge. This was strange. What places do you know? He asked. A place called Yoitsu. Lawrence forced himself to say, "Don't know it," all the unease that rose within him. He did know of a place called Yoitsu, from an old story he'd heard in an inn in the north. Were you born there? I was. How's Yoitsu doing these days? Is everyone well? Holo asked, slumping slightly. It was such a fleeting gesture that it couldn't be an act. Yet Lawrence could not possibly believe her. After all, according to the story, the town of Yoitsu had been destroyed by an Ursine monsters 600 years ago. Do you remember any other places? It's been so many centuries. Niohira. There was a town called Niohira. It was a strange town with the hot springs. I would often go to bathe in them. There were still hot springs in the north at Niohira, where royalty and nobility often visited. But how many people in this area would even know of its existence? Ignoring Lawrence's confused reverie, Holo spoke as if she, even now, relaxing in the hot water. Then suddenly she sneezed. Wait, are you? What do you mean? You're asking if I'm okay? Your character was going wild. Oh. I don't know. I probably was blocking a little bit more of the camera than I should have been. It is what it is. I do not mind taking human form. It is unavoidably cold. Not enough fur, said Holo, laughing and hiding herself again in the pile of marten pelts. Lawrence couldn't help but laughing at her appearance. There was something that still worried him, though. So he spoke to Holo as she snuggled in the fur pile. You said something about changing forms earlier. What was that about? At his question, Holo poked her head out of the pile. I meant just what I said. I haven't taken human form in quite some time. Charming, no?
Say goodbye to your kneecaps, chucklehead!
God damn it, cat. Pain in my ass. She said with a smile. Lawrence couldn't help agreeing, but he kept a straight face as he replied. The girl could make him lose his composure, that was certain. Aside from a few extra details, you are a human. Or what else? Are you a dog turned human? Like the stories of horses turning human? Oh my god. I see Cam is choosing violence. Holo stood at the slight provocation, turning her back to him. She looked over her shoulder at him and responded steadily. You can doubtless tell from my ears and tail that I am a proud wolf. My fellow wolves, the animals of the forest, and the people of the village all acknowledge me. It is of the white tip of my tail that I am proudest. My ears anticipate every misfortune and hear every lie, and I have saved many friends from many dangers. When one speaks of the wise wolf of Yoitsu, they speak of none other than me. Although sniffed proudly, but soon remembered the cold and dove back under the furs. The tail at the base of her back was indeed moving. Not just ears, then she had a tail as well. Laura saw back on her howl. It was a true wolf's howl, unmistakably. Was this then truly Holo, wolf god of the harvest? No, it can't be, muttered Lawrence to himself as he reconsidered Holo. She seemed unconcerned about him as she narrowed her eyes in the warm furs. Seen thus, she was rather cat-like. Although that was not the issue at hand. Was Holo human, or wasn't she? That was the question. Don't cry about being missed. You're an awesome person. Any reasonable person would obviously miss you. I know I definitely miss playing with you, and definitely looking forward to when you have more time so we can do that more often. People who were actually possessed by demons didn't fear the church because their appearance was different. Rather, they feared it because the demon within them would cause outward calamities, for which the church made it widely known that the penalty was death at the stake. What if Holo was instead a transformed animal, like in the old tales? She might bring good fortune or perform miracles. Indeed, if she was the Holo, god of the harvest, the wheat trader could ask for no finer companion. Oh god, how far? I am currently on page 27 of the light novel. This is the first meeting of Lawrence and Holo. I think at the very least I'll get to the end of chapter 1, and it looks like that is page 44. I want to do at least that today. Actual advice. Oh, what's the advice? I'll help if I can.
She lies in the silence. She grabbed my hand.
I told you.
Me while I think about the house lie deep in the woods.
I don't think he said the name of it, but that was about the I don't think I've told you about the clinical like psychosis. Is that what you were trying to say? Okay. No, it's like you're slight misspelling, so it's like I was curious if that was something else. Come find that the issue with fans is because of one. You did say that. I think you only said it once, so it's not like it's something that kind of stuck. But why? What's up? If you want to, feel free to ask in DMs. That might give me more time to come up with like a sort of measured response. I know when it comes to Sans, I know that she has something clinical that is she lives with until such a time where she's able to get surgery to take care of it. But means like the person's more than just a diagnosis, so I know personally I'm not going to bring it up to her. Like, I'm not going to ask her about what she deals with on the daily. But it is what it is. But yeah, if you're talking about like hers, I think is clinical bullshit. I know the drama that she's currently going through is with a insane ex, is putting it lightly, and it seems person is kind of a fucked person to multiple people. Still, I see Discord going, so I'll read here in a bit. To continue on in the book, Lawrence turned his attention back to Holo. Holo, was it? Yes. You said you were a wolf? I did. But all you have are a wolf's ears and tail. If you are truly a transformed wolf, you should be able to take wolf form. Holo stared absently for a while at Lawrence's words before something seemed to occur to her. Oh, you're telling me to show you my wolf form. Lawrence nodded at the truth of the statement, but was in fact mildly surprised. He had expected her to either be flustered or to flatly lie. But she had done neither, instead looking simply irritated. But this expression of irritation was far more persuasive than a clumsy lie. The assurance that she could transform, that he expected. I don't want to. Why not? Why do you want me to? She shot back, pouting. Lawrence winced at her retort. But that question of whether Holo was human or not was an important one to him. Recovering from his stumble, Lawrence put as much confidence as he could muster into his voice, trying to regain the conversational initiative. If you were a person I could consider turning you into the church, demons cause calamity after all. But if you really are Holo, god of the harvest in human form, then I needn't turn you in. Were she genuine, well, tales of transformed animals acting as envoys of good fortune still remained. Far from turning her in as a demon, he would happily offer her wine and bread. If not, the situation would be different. As Lawrence spoke, Holo wrinkled her nose, and her expression grew darker and darker. From what I've heard, transformed animals can change their original forms. If you are telling the truth, you should be able to do so as well. Yes? Polo listened with the same irritated expression. At length, she sighed softly, slowly extracted herself from the pile of furs. I have suffered a great many times at the church. I'll not be given over to them. Yet. She sighed again, stroking her tail as she continued. No animal can change its form without a token. Even you humans need makeup before you can change your appearance. Likewise, I require food. What kind of food? Only a bit of wheat. That seemed more or less reasonable for a god of the harvest, Lawrence had to admit. But her next statement brought him up short. That or fresh blood. Fresh blood? Only a bit, though. Her casual tone made Lawrence feel that she couldn't be lying. His breath caught. He glanced at her mouth. Just a moment ago, he had seen the fangs behind those lips bite into the meat he had dropped. Okay. See what you wrote. I'm trying to read between ad breaks as well, so I see an ad coming up here in 2 minutes, so see what you got. Yeah, no, I definitely get that. If you ever, will kind of come off as possibly a selfish one. If you feel that a middle person might come in handy, or as far as giving her somebody between you and her to trust, essentially. I can try to be that middle person, essentially. Let her have be able to hang out with her in a way where there's somebody else that would be there just in case, in their mind, until such a point where she reaches the ability to be comfortable around you enough. Oh, I get that. The reason why I'm offering is because I already, as I mentioned yesterday, is like she's another person. Hey, I would love to meet her. I actually love to befriend her. So it's not like you'd be putting anything on me that I wasn't already wanting to do. It just adds another angle, another incentive to do it. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Oh damn. But I was alert. Wait. the heck? I could have sworn I brought Hyperstream to Lurker earlier. I guess it just never loaded. That's Lurky well.
I stay.
Oh. Never mind. I guess it's over. Oh. Thank you for the follow. 4 big guys. It gives you an idea how much I kind of figured out. Oh god. Yeah, no, I can kind of understand that, man. Especially kind of recently with all the shit that's kind of been like stuck in my head. So I understand that.
Hello there.
Hello there, Omni. Well, ad is over. I'm hoping to at least hit the end of chapter 1 today. Even this book has... How many chapters are in here, actually? I love the fucking pictures. Such pretty. Ooh, chapter 3 is long. Okay, so next time I'll probably do chapter 2 and probably half it. So 1, 2. Yeah, so I'll be looking at probably 1 book a month if I do this once a day. Or like once a weekend. Okay. Lawrence wins at her retort. The question of whether Holo was human or not was an important one to him. Recovering from a stumble, Lawrence put as much confidence... Oh, I already read that. What? Are you afraid? Said Lawrence at Lawrence's said Holo at Lawrence's trepidation. As she smiled ruefully. Lawrence would have said, "Of course not." But Holo was clearly anticipating his reaction. But soon, the smile disappeared from her face as she looked away from him. If you are, then I'm even more disinclined to. Why then? Lawrence asked, putting more strength into his voice, feeling that he's being made sport of. I have a little bookmark, or like little card I'm using as a bookmark. Just normally there's like a proper like ending of a section where I was able to stop. This one was actually between paragraphs. Because you will surely quake with fear. All, be they human or animal, look on my form and give way with awe, and treat me as special. I have tired of this treatment. Are you saying I would be afraid of your true form? If you would pretend to be strong, you might first hide your trembling hand. Holo said, exasperated. Lawrence looked down at his hands. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. You're an honest sort, said an amused Holo. But before Lawrence could offer an excuse, her expression darkened again, and she continued, quick as an arrow. However, just because you're an honest does not mean I should show you my form. Was what you had said before the truth? Before? Hi. Thank you for the raid. How are you doing? What were you playing? What were you doing? Hang on for a bit before I continue reading. There's Shishima. That has never been a kind of game I've been quite interested in. Because it's... Man, I suck at those kind of games. Well, still. How'd it go? That was good. That's good to hear. How many times you die? That's one of those games where I know that it can be pretty unforgiving until you learn all the mechanics. I'm pretty sure that's one of those that is considered, or probably colloquially referred to as like a Souls-like game, if it's what I'm thinking of.
She lights in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about the house light deep in the woods.
But still. Well, hopefully you enjoy the peaceful vibes. I'm just sitting here currently reading Spice and Wolf Volume 1. We're up to page 30. That if I'm truly If I am truly a wolf, you would not give me over to the church. Lawrence had heard that there were some demons capable of illusions, so this was not a decision he could make lightly. Holo seemed to anticipate this and spoke again. Well, I have a good eye for both men and beasts. You are a man who keeps his word, I can tell. Lawrence was still unable to find his tongue at the mischievous Holo's words. He certainly could go back on his word. He was understanding more and more that she was toying with him. But there was nothing he could do about it. I'll show you a bit then. Full transformation is difficult. You'll forgive me if I only do my arm, said Holo, reaching down in the corner of the wagon bed. For a moment, Lawrence thought it was some sort of special pose she had to assume. But he soon realized what she was doing. She was picking a grain of wheat from the sheaf in the corner of his wagon. What are you doing with that? Asked Lawrence without thinking. Before he could even finish the question, Holo popped the grain of wheat in her mouth and, closing her eyes, swallowed it like a pill. The shell of the unhusked kernel was not edible. Lawrence frowned at the thought of the bitter taste in his mouth. That thought soon vanished with the sight that came next. Holo groaned, clutching her left arm and falling into a pile of furs. Lawrence was about to say something. This could not have been an act, when a strange sound reached his ears. It was like the sound of mice running through a forest. It continued for a few moments and then ended with a muffled thud, like something treading on soft ground. Lawrence was so surprised he could do nothing. The next moment, Holo's formerly slim arm had transformed into the forepaw of some huge beast and was totally unsuited to the rest of her body. Oof. Really doesn't look very good. The limb appeared to be so large that she would have trouble supporting it. She rested the giant leg on the pile of furs and shifted herself to accommodate it. Well, do you believe me now? He looked up at Lawrence. Lawrence was unable to reply, rubbing his eyes and shaking his head as he looked again at the sight before him. The leg was magnificent and coated in dark brown fur. Given the size of the leg, the full animal would be huge, roughly as big as a horse. The paw ended in huge scythe-like claws. All that grew from the girl's slender shoulder. It'd be strange to think it wasn't an illusion. Unable to believe it, Lawrence finally took a skin of water and doused his face with it. Aren't you the doubtful one? If you still think it's an illusion, go ahead and touch it, teased Holo, smiling, curling the giant paw in a come hither motion. It really would be a very short story if you joked right there. Lawrence found himself irritated, yet still he hesitated. Beside the sheer size of the limb, it also gave off a certain ineffable sense of danger. It was the leg of a wolf. I've dealt with goods called dragon legs, Lawrence told himself, irritated at his cowardice, before his hand could touch it. Oh, said Holo, seeming to remember something. Lawrence snapped his hand back. What is it? Oh, nothing. Don't be so surprised, said Holo, now sounding annoyed, adding embarrassment to his fear. Lawrence became angrier and angrier. As what he had felt was his failure as a man, getting a hold of himself, he reached out once again. So, what happened? Said Holo meekly, looking up at Lawrence. Be gentle, will you? Lawrence could not help stopping his hand short at her suddenly endearing manner. He looked at her as she looked back, grinning. You're rather charming, aren't you? Lawrence said nothing as he made sure of what his hand was feeling. He was irritated at her half-teasing manner. There was another reason he had failed to reply. It was of course because of what he was touching. God damn it. Hope. Why the fuck am I now picturing Panda's voice with Holo? Because I already empathized for many years with Lawrence. I think that's the worst part. Like, especially with how she is with me. God damn. Oh? What's up? Hey, glad I could help, man. Glad to have my own little corner of the internet where, well, people are good, the vibes are fun. For the depths of what you've described before, I don't think I ever truly could understand. Because I know in the closest I could probably get is before I started streaming. When you know what? Let's mark in real quick. Yeah, Hope. To kind of explain a little bit of where I was before I started streaming. In June of 2017, I was still living with my ex. We had been together for, at that point, 4.5 years. We were engaged for nearly 2. I was very... I don't meet people in person. So I had a lot of self-imposed social isolation. Like, despite working in a factory with over 1,000 people, I only met 4 of them outside of work. 2 of them every couple of months, and another 2 every couple of weeks, maybe. Like, that was the first time my siblings ever came to visit where I was living without needing to use them as additional help for moving or setting something up. That was the first time they were able to come over to visit for the sake of just visiting. Like, as far as people I could talk to and just straight up trust, my circle was Bobby Nerd and Danger X. That's it. I was extremely isolated to the point where I kind of longed for company. I played a little mobile game. Did my normal little gimmick where I ran another alliance. I recruited people because that seemed to be something I was good at. I'm not the strongest player, but I seem to be a fairly strong persona, the figurehead of sorts. So I'm very good at making alliances. Effectively sliding in others' DMs is what I was really good at. Hey, do you wanna work together to take this person down? Hey, do you wanna work together and just non-aggression pact here? Blah blah. Well, I met some people that I thought were good, and led to meeting other people. But what I realize now that I did not realize then is these people were very, very bad to me. This is the time of my life, this was the last time of my life where I let others have control. It's why I am It'll be obvious next month when I retake that BDSM test. While Switch probably does still rate highly for me, it'll take somebody I trust 100% for me to truly give up control. There was people I met that abused it. So I was easily led. And while I was with my ex, somebody got closer to me, and they managed to pull me far enough away from my ex that, like, while nothing happened, nothing started. They pulled me far enough away to where I was finally able to see myself in the mirror and not know who the hell I'm looking at. And it was then that I had that moment of, I am not happy. I want to be happy. It was a couple of days later where I ended the relationship with my ex that I was with for 4.5 years, engaged to for 2 years. She had a measure of control over me for 11 years. I basically lived at work until I was able to move out in August of 2017. I was still talking to a couple of people that weren't the best for me, but away from my ex, I had a little bit of time of self-discovery, finding out more of what I wanted. My very first stream was in October of 2017. And with all that said, it's the amount of people I've met, the amount my social circle has grown since streaming. Like, I can kind of understand a little bit, but I'm also more than 5 years removed. I can't understand the depths of which you are speaking, but I hope I can understand at least a little bit. Yeah. No, I get that. But still. Regardless of people's backgrounds, my biggest rule in life, biggest rule in the server, biggest rule in the chat: don't be an asshole. I leave it up to me to dictate when something is unjustifiable. So long as we get along, you're welcome here, and hope the social interactions can. That's why I say unjustifiable. Your stuff is funny. You haven't crossed any lines that I've seen. But yeah, happy to have you around, man. Yeah, no, if you cross a line with me, probably everybody else I know would have long since banned you. My fuse got greatly lengthened with me interacting with politics and religion. So no, you're good, man. I don't. That's something that I will lean into, so long as the conversation remains civil. That's my rule. Oh, gotta call it out on both sides. Because far more often than is reasonably necessary, those two are very, very intertwined. So, and when it comes to politics and religion with me, it's like people are more than welcome to ask my opinion, and I'm more than happy to give it to them. I just don't ask anybody else to follow me down this damn rabbit hole because holy shit, it sucks. My thing is I peeked behind the curtain and I can't pretend I don't know what's happening behind there anymore. So. I saw enough of the fucking gears that I can't not pretend I can't not see it anymore. But still. Yeah. Go ahead and type that out. I'll go ahead and also continue reading. The ad's over. The beast's leg that thrust from Holo's shoulder had a bone as thick and solid as a tree's limb, wrapped in sinew that would be the envy of any soldier, and covering that a magnificent coat of brown fur, from the base of the shoulder all the way down to the paw. Each pad of the paw was the size of an uncut loaf of bread. Past the soft pink toes was something denser, the scythes of her claws. The leg was solid enough, but those claws were anything but illusory. In addition, the not warm, yet not cold sensation peculiar to animal claws. Lawrence felt a thrill at the sensation that these were not something that he should be touching. He swallowed. Are you really a god? He murmured. I'm no god, as you can tell from my forepaw. I am merely bigger than my comrades, bigger and cleverer. I am Holo, the wise wolf. He's holding an online mass on Sunday while streaming Tarka. Oh my fucking god, really? I mean, know your audience. Yes. And the girl who so confidently called herself Holo. Wow, I just fucking derped on that. The girl who so confidently called herself wise looked at Lawrence proudly. She was every bit a mischievous young girl, but the aura that the beast limb exuded was not something a mere animal could ever manage. Had something to do with the size of the thing. So, what think you? Lawrence nodded vaguely at her question. But the real Holo should be in Yade now. The wolf resides in the one who cuts the last week's stalk, they say. I am Holo, the wise wolf. I know well my own limitations. It is true I live within the wheat. Without it, I cannot live. And it is also true that during the harvest, I was within the last wheat to be harvested, and usually I cannot escape from there. Not while any were watching. However, there is an exception. Lawrence listened to her explanation, impressed with the rapid delivery. If there is nearby a larger sheaf of wheat than the last one to be harvested, I can move unseen to that wheat. That's why they say it. You know, the villagers. If you cut too greedily, you won't catch the harvest god and it will escape. Lawrence glanced at his wagon bed with sudden realization. There was a sheaf of wheat, the wheat he had received from the mountain village. So, that is how it was done. I suppose one could call you my savior. If you hadn't been there, I would never have escaped. Although Lawrence could not quite bring himself to believe these words. They were lent persuasion when Holo swallowed a few more wheat grains and returned her arm to normal. Full Giga Chad blasting. God. I think neutrons. I mean, he's at a river. He could just clean them. However, Holo had said savior with a certain distaste, so Lawrence decided to get even with her. Perhaps I should take that wheat back to the village then. They'll be in a bad way without their harvest god. I've been friends with Yade and the others in Pazzo for a long time. I'd hate to see them suffer. God damn it, Hope. God damn it. He concocted the pretense on the spot, but the more he thought about it, the truer it seemed. If this Holo was the real Holo, then wouldn't the village begin suffering poor harvests? After a few moments, his ruminations ended. Holo was looking at him as if stricken. You're jesting, surely, he said. Her suddenly frail mien rocked the defenseless merchant. Hard to say, Lawrence said vaguely, trying to conceal his internal conflict and buy some time. Even as his head filled with other concerns, his heart grew only more uneasy. Lawrence agonized. If Holo was what she claimed to be, the god of the harvest, his best course of action would be to return her to the village. He had long associated with Pazzo. He did not wish them ill. However, when he looked back at Holo, her earlier bravado was entirely gone. Now she looked down, as apprehensive as any princess in old Night Tale. Lawrence grimaced and put the question to himself. Should I return this girl to the village? Even though she clearly does not want to go? What if she is the real Holo? He mulled the matter over in a cold sweat, the two questions battling in his mind. Presently, he became aware of someone looking at him. He followed the look to see its source and saw Holo gazing at him beseechingly. Please, help me, won't you? Yeah, I said Halo by accident. I mean, shit, her by my side, I would do that. I'd do that. Wouldn't you? Unable to stand the sight of Holo, so meekly bowing her head, Lawrence turned away. All he saw, day in and day out, was the backside of a horse. The life left him completely unable to resist a girl like Holo looking at him with such a face. Agonizingly, he came to a decision. He turned slowly back toward Holo and asked her a single question. I must ask you one thing. Alright. If you leave the village, will they still be able to raise wheat? Yeah. There's a reason why Holo is one, like if I was to fucking pick a character in a story that I like the most, Holo is like top 3. Always. I love her wit. I love her charm. I love her intelligence. Missed one thing. What's that? Oh yeah. She would drink me broke. Oh, I know. I know what you mean. But it'd be a good fucking time. He didn't expect Holo to answer in a way that would weaken her own position. But he was a merchant. He had dealt with any number of dishonest negotiators in his time. He had confidence that if Holo attempted a lie, he would know. Lawrence readied himself to catch the prevarication that he was sure would come, but come it didn't. When he looked at her, she wore an expression completely different from what he had seen so far. She looked angry, in near tears, as she stared in the corner of the wagon bed. What's wrong? Lawrence had to ask. The village's abundant harvest will continue without me. She spat, her voice surprisingly irate. Is that so? Asked Lawrence, overwhelmed by the piercing anger that emanated from Holo. She nodded, squaring her shoulders. She gripped the furs tightly, her hands white from the effort. Long did I stay in that village, as many years as I have hairs on my tail. Eventually I wished to leave. But for the sake of the village's wheat, I stayed. Long ago, you see, I made a promise with the youth of the village that I would ensure the village's harvest, and so I kept my promise. Perhaps because she couldn't stomach it, she didn't so much as look at Lawrence as she spoke. Earlier, her wit in words would have been quick and easy. Now she stumbled uncertainly. I am the wolf that lives in the wheat. My knowledge of wheat and things that grow in the ground is second to none. That is why I made the village's wheat so magnificent, as I promised. But to do that, occasionally the harvest must be poor. Forcing the land to produce requires compensation. But whenever the harvest was poor, the villagers attributed it my caprices. And it has only gotten worse in recent years. I have been wanting to leave, but I can stand it no longer. Long ago, I fulfilled my promise. Oh, you're asking about the background? Background music? That that what you're asking about? I'm in VR chat. It seemed fitting. Yeah. I was gonna be in here anyways, and then find something to play, but given the fact that I had a background music already, I'm just letting it go. I might pick various worlds while reading, because there's several that I love the fucking ambiance. I can show off a couple before I, like, when I reach the end of the chapter. Lawrence understood Holo's anger. Some years ago, Pazlo had come under the care of Count Arendot. And since then, new farming techniques have been imported from the south, increasing yield. Holo thus felt that her presence was no longer necessary. Indeed, the rumor was proliferating that not even the god of the church exists. It was not impossible that a countryside hamlet's harvest god had gotten wrapped up in such talk. The village's good harvest will continue. There will be a poor yield every few years, but that will be their own doing. And they'll overcome it on their own. The land doesn't need me, and the people certainly don't need me either. Getting her words out all in one breath, Holo sighed deeply and fell over the pile of furs yet again. She curled up, pulling the furs around her and burying her face in them. He could not see her face to make certain, but it seemed not impossible that she was crying. Lawrence scratched his head, unsure what to say. He looked helplessly at her slender feet, shoulders, and wolf ears. Perhaps this is how a real god acted. Now, full of bluster and bravado. Now wielding a sharp wit. Now showing a childish temper. Thank you, Slim. Lawrence was at a loss to how to treat the girl now. Nevertheless, he couldn't very well remain silent, so he took a new approach. In any case, setting aside the question of whether or not that's all true. You think me a liar? Snapped Holo at his preamble. He faltered, but Holo seemed to realize that she herself was being too emotional. He stopped, abashed, and muttered a quick, "Sorry," before burying her head in the furs again. I understand your resentment, but where do you plan to go, having left the village? She did not answer immediately, but Lawrence saw her ears prick at the question, so he'd waited patiently. She had just delivered a significant confession, and Lawrence expected that she simply couldn't face anyone for a moment. At length, Holo guiltily looked in the corner of the wagon bed, confirming Lawrence's suspicions. I wish to return north, she said flatly. North? Holo nodded, turning her gaze up and off to the distance. Lawrence didn't have to follow it to know that she was looking true north. My birthplace, the forest of Uetsu. So many years have passed that I can no longer count them. I wish to return home. The word birthplace left Lawrence momentarily shocked. And he looked at Holo's profile. He himself had not visited his hometown once since embarking on the life of a wandering merchant. It was a poor and cramped place of which he had few good memories. But after long days in the driver's seat, sometimes loneliness overcame him and he couldn't help thinking fondly on the place. If Holo was telling the truth, not only had she left her home hundreds of years ago, but she'd endured neglect and ridicule, all at the place to which she settled. He could guess at her loneliness. But I'd like to travel a bit. I've come all this way to the distant place after all, and surely much has changed over the months and years. It'd be good to broaden my perspective, said Holo, looking at Lawrence, her face a picture of calm. So long as you will not take me back to Paslo or turn me into the church, I'd like to travel with you. You're a wandering merchant, are you not? She regarded Lawrence with a friendly smile that suggested that she had seen right through him and knew he would not betray her. She sounded like an old friend asking for a simple favor. Lawrence had not yet to determine whether or not he believed Holo's story, but as far as he could tell, she was not a bad sort. And he'd begun to enjoy conversing with the strange girl, but he wasn't so won over by her charm as to forget his merchant instincts. A good merchant had the audacity to face a god, and the caution to doubt a close relative. Lawrence thought it over, then spoke quietly. I cannot make this decision lightly. I cannot make this decision quickly. He expected complaint, but he had underestimated Holo. She nodded in comprehension. It is good to be cautious, but I never misread a person. I don't believe you're so cold as to turn someone away. Holo spoke with a mischievous smile playing across her lips. She then turned and hopped back into the pile of furs, albeit without the sulkiness she had shown before. It seemed as though she was saying, enough talk for today. As she derailed of the conversation yet again, Lawrence could only grin in spite of himself as he watched Holo. He thought he could see her ears moving, and her head popped out as she looked at him. Surely, you'll not tell me to sleep outside, he said, obviously aware that he could do no such thing. Lawrence shrugged. Holo giggled and returned to the fur pile. Seeing her like this, Lawrence wondered if her actions earlier were something of an act, as if she were trying to play the part of the imprisoned princess. Nevertheless, he doubted that her dissatisfaction with the village, or her desire to return, nevertheless he doubted that her dissatisfaction with the village or her desire to return home were lies. And if those weren't lies, then he must believe that she was the real Holo, because a mere demon-possessed girl would not be able to make it all up. Lawrence sighed as he realized the more he thought would not yield any new answers. He decided to go to sleep and leave further ruminations for the morrow. The furs that Holo slept in belonged to Lawrence. It was ludicrous to think that their owner would forego their comfort and sleep on the wagon's driving bench. Telling her to move over to one side, he too snuggled in the fur pile. From behind him, he heard the quiet sounds of Holo's breathing. Although he told her he couldn't make a quick decision, Lawrence had already decided that as long as Holo had not made off with the goods in the morning, he would travel with her. He doubted that she was that sort of troublemaker. But if she was, he thought, she'd surely make off with his entire load. He looked forward to the next day. She really is. I can only imagine, like, as much as I'm imagining Panda's voice with that. Like, if I could pick anybody to read this book with, I would absolutely want Panda to do Holo's voice. But with you saying the puppy dog eyes, I would fear those ever being used on me from her. After all, it had been a long time since he had slept beside another. It was impossible to be unhappy with her slightly sweet scent, piercing the strong-smelling furs. The horse heaved a sigh, as if reading Lawrence's simple thought. Perhaps horses really could understand humans, and simply preferred not to speak. Lawrence grinned ruefully, and closed his eyes. Lawrence rose early the next morning. He was like most merchants who awoke early in order to extract the most profit from the day. However, when he opened his eyes in the morning, Holo was already up, sitting next to him and rummaging through something. For an instant, Lawrence wondered if his estimation of her had been wrong. And if so, she was truly audacious. He raised his head, looked at her over his shoulder. It appeared she had gone looking for clothes amongst his things, was just now tying her shoes. Hey now, those are mine! Even if it wasn't actual theft, then a god wouldn't be rummaging around other people's things. Lola turned around at Lawrence's rebuke. There's not so much a trace of guilt on her face. Oh, you are awake. What do you think of this? Does it look good? She asked, completely unconcerned as she spread her arms. Far from chastened, she seemed actually proud. Seeing her like this made the uncertain, overwrought Holo of yesterday seem like something out of a dream. Indeed, it seemed that the real Holo, the one he'd have to contend with from here on out, was this impudent, prancing thing. Oh, ads starting soon. Let's wait until the ads are done. Yeah, no, a god not looking to be ogled. I mean, a god that wants to be warm. She said that the human form for her was cold because it didn't have fur. That's why she kept on diving under the furs. Now you're good. I mean, your timing right there is pretty impeccable, so I'm just waiting for the ad, or the little timer I got up here for saying the ad is over to continue. Oh, you're good. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Oh. Hey man, how you doing? Hello Heatwave, hello Red Laser. How you guys doing? Average temp's like 10 cells. Yeah, it'd be kind of chilly up there. Yeah, I probably got another half hour-ish in me. I only got another 3 pages. 3.5.
God damn it. God no, sorry. Phoenix, it's alright. I read the line anyways. It's alright.
Phoenix, we didn't know you were back.
We didn't know.
Fair enough. Interesting clip there. But still. But still. How did God, what Devil May Cry? How'd that go for you, man? Which one are you playing, by the way? Going in chronological order? Going in the release order? DMC5. Ah, I never got too far on that one. If I was to pick any of them, I'd say DMC3 is probably my favorite. But DMC1, the original, is the only one I've ever actually beaten. Continuing on. Incidentally, the clothes she wore now were Lawrence's best. The one outfit he reserved for negotiations with rich traders and the like. Was that necessary, Omniwolf? God damn you. The top was an indigo blue shirt, underneath 3/4 length vest. The trousers were a rare combination of linen and leather, with a skirt that wrapped fully around her lower body, and tied with a fine sheepskin sash. The boots were a rare prize, made of tanned leather and triple layered, good even in the snowy mountain. Over all this, she wore a bearskin greatcoat. Merchants take pride in their practical, dignified clothing. By these, Lawrence saved gradually, beginning in his apprenticeship. It had taken him 10 years. If he showed up in negotiation wearing these, with a nicely groomed beard, he would have most people at a disadvantage. And Holo now wore these garments. He couldn't find it in himself to be angry with her, though. All the clothes were clearly too big for her, which made it all the more charming. The greatcoat is black. My brown hair looks lovely against it. These trousers, though? They get in the way of my tail. Might I put a hole in them? The trousers she spoke of so lightly had been made by a master craftsman, only after significant effort on Lawrence's part. A hole would likely prove impossible to repair. He shook his head resolutely. Well, fortunately, they're still large. I'll find a way to make them work. Holo seemed not to harbor the faintest concern that she would be asked to take the clothes off. Lawrence didn't think that she was likely to run away while wearing them, but nevertheless, he rose and regarded her. If she were to go to the city and sell them, they'd fetch a tidy amount of gold. You're a merchant through and through. That's sure enough. I know just what to anticipate with that expression on your face, said Holo, smiling. She jumped lightly down from the wagon. Oh, that's a cute little piece of artwork here. That's one of my favorite things about a lot of light novels. It's like the random bits of artwork interspaced with some pages. Like the illustration for her right here is fucking adorable. You know what? Let me just do the fucking... Let me just do this. More effort, but who cares? Okay. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Open link. And display capture. Here we go. It looks adorable right here. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that, and then I can just kind of cycle through these as we're going. Looks like the next illustration's not gonna be till 70 or page 78, and I am 2 pages from the end of the chapter. Okay. There we go. Yeah, sounds good, Hope. Let's go ahead and... Yeah. Go ahead and drop the display capture, though. Her movement was so unassuming and natural that he had no reaction. If she'd run just then, he would have been unable to pursue. Or perhaps he didn't react because he didn't believe she would run. I'll not run. If that had been my aim, I'd have gone long since. Lawrence glanced at the wheat sheep in the wagon bed, then looked back at the smiling Holo. She took the bearskin cloak off and tossed it back in the wagon. Evidently, the cloak, which had been made for Lawrence's height, was too big for her. She was even smaller than he had realized yesterday, having only seen her in the dim moonlight. Lawrence was on the tall side, but even so, she was fully 2 heads shorter than him. Then, as if she verified the fit of the rest of her clothes, she spoke offhandedly. So, I wish to travel with you. May I? She smiled, but did not seem to flatter. If she tried to flatter him, Lawrence felt there might have been reason to refuse her, but she had simply smiled happily. Lawrence sighed. She didn't seem to be a thief, at least. He could let his guard down, but it wouldn't hurt letting her come along, and sending her away would only make the constant loneliness harder to bear. This must be some kind of fate. Very well. Holo did not appear especially overjoyed. She merely smiled. You'll have to earn your keep, though. Life of a merchant isn't easy. I expect the god of abundant harvest to bring an abundant harvest to my coin purse. I'm not so shameless as to thoughtlessly freeload. I'm Holo the Wise Wolf, and I have my pride, said Holo sullenly. Lawrence was not so blind as to think she wasn't making a show of childish indignation, though. Sure enough, Holo chuckled. Though this proud wolf made a bit of a spectacle of herself yesterday, she said self-depreciatingly, as if her flustered demeanor reflected her true feeling. Any case, it's good to meet you, Lawrence. Craft Lawrence. When I'm working, I go by Lawrence. Lawrence. I shall sing your praises for all eternity, said Holo with chest thrust forward, her wolf ears pricking up proudly. She seemed oddly serious. It was difficult to tell if she was being childish or cunning. It was like the ever-changing mountain weather. Apparently, that ever-changing mood was part of her craftiness. Lawrence hastily revised his opinion and offered his hand from the wagon bed. It is proof that he truly acknowledged her presence as a companion. Holo smiled and took his hand. Her hand was small and warm. At any rate, it will soon rain. We should make haste. What? You should have said so sooner, exclaimed Lawrence, loudly enough to startle his horse. The previous night hadn't brought so much as a hint of rain, but looking up at the sky, he could indeed see clouds beginning to gather. Holo chuckled at him as he hurriedly made preparations to depart. She scampered on board the wagon. It was obvious enough, from the ease with which she rearranged the slept-in furs, that she would be more handy than some fresh-faced apprentice child. The river is in foul temper. It would be best to cross a short distance from here. After Lawrence roused the horse, collected a bucket, and took the reins in hand, Holo joined him in the driver's seat. It was too big for one person, but slightly too small for two. But to ward off the chill, too small was just right. With the neigh of a horse, this pair's strange travels had begun. Yeah. Okay. I think doing at least one chapter right there should be a decent stopping point. Because that one chapter was 44 pages? Yeah. And hope. At this place, we'll go ahead and save. Save this world. Add to favorites. There. But yeah, I fucking love Spice and Wolf so much. Where I probably would end up going next, if you guys want different ambiances, would be... Here's one place I would go. This is actually where I was kind of thinking of going first, before I saw that there was a good Spice and Wolf world. Although I feel this might put people to sleep. Here, let me turn up the piano. This is one of my favorite worlds. I've come here a few times to either just think or just have the piano as background music for reading. So, and given this was a reading stream, that's perfect. I got a few different places I can go to. But still. I want to go ahead and get some food before I get ready for bed. I already knew today was going to be kind of a short stream. So, it is what it is. Let's see if we can find somebody who is live right now. Okay, so we got, let's do my normal thing. We got the forest. We got the shape-shifting detective. We got Fortnite. Yeah, let's go with those three. What you guys feeling? Actually, you know what? I've never rated this person before. Let's go. I was saying Fortnite, the forest, or Oh god, what was the other person? Oh, it was the shape-shifting detective. But I know I've never actually rated this person. I might go with the Fortnite option. Let's go ahead and say hello to Ophelia Valentine. So, take care, everybody. And the next planned stream for me is going to be Thursday night. So if anything happens between now and then, that'll be kind of a bonus thing. So I guess we'll just find out. And I'm hoping that the 24-hour can go off on Friday without a hitch. So we'll have to see how that goes. Take it as it comes. Take care, everybody. Have a good day, night, whatever it might be for y'all. And until next time. And